Shalom, shalom, and welcome to the ways of Israel. We're going to look at very briefly at this concept of the Jewish concept of the Antichrist, which differs 100% with that of Christianity and Islam. A very fascinating concept in the Jewish point of view in contrast to the Christian and Islam. I'm joining both Christianity and Islam together because many of you perhaps have already heard that once there is announced the Messiah in Israel, that's going to be a cue for the Christian and Islam group to say, "Oh, Antichrist is here, Antichrist is here," and thus this is one of the things I mentioned in one of my videos, how that the raising up or the arrival of the Messiah in the land of Israel will cause problems into the faith of Christianity and also Islam. It will herald their Antichrist, but really our Messiah. Because the Messiah, in order to prove himself, has to do certain things. We've had many false messiahs in our history, even to most recent, with the proclamation of a particular religious rabbi being post-mortem still the Messiah after death. But I won't go into that. It's not the topic of our discussion today. We're going to look at the Jewish concept of the Antichrist, known as Armilus. It's also spelled in two different ways, Armilus, A-R-M-I-L-O-S, or A-R-M-I-L-L-I-U-S, and it is the anti-Messiah figure that was created during the medieval Jewish eschatology, and it's comparable to medieval interpretation of the Christian Antichrist in the Islamic Dajjal. In other words, the false Messiah, the false Messiah who will conquer the whole earth and centralize everything in Jerusalem and persecute the believers until his final defeat at the hands of the messenger of God, the true Messiah. He inevitably is a destruction that symbolizes the ultimate victory of good over evil in the Messianic age. And I want to note this. While Christianity is picturing a Jewish man being the false Messiah who will build the temple and cause the desecration that causes abomination, the abomination that causes desecration and so forth, which already by us occurred during the year 70 of the Common Era, which we'll be learning that again during this time of Tammuz, where we see the breaches of the walls of Jerusalem. Keep in mind, in the Christian and Islamic thought, that hasn't taken place yet, because they misinterpret the book of Daniel and misread it regarding the prince that will be cut off. And all of these passages become of great importance to understand why Christianity takes on this concept of the Antichrist and sees the Jew as trying to take on another Messiah except theirs. Islam does the same thing, by the way. Islam does the same exact thing because Islam, by and large, believes and holds that Jesus is the Messiah. They hold that too, just like a lot of our Messianic friends. Therefore, anyone else but theirs is all automatically considered an anti-Messiah. And yet, when we look at it very briefly, that the Messiah that they have beheld and believed that he is, JC, it qualifies into Paul's definition of the Antichrist. Why? Because according to Paul's definition of the Antichrist, he is one that comes into the temple of God saying that he is God, that he's in God in flesh, and then will want to be worshipped as God. This is exactly what Christianity turned into. So thus, if you look at it, Paul's word in Thessalonians is an exact replication of the Jewish concept of the false Messiah made alive in Christianity and in Islam. So therefore, these two views, although similar, are completely contrary and they crash. So we have a problem, friends. The problem is if the Jewish Messiah comes, they're going to have issues with the Christian Messiah and the Islamic Messiah. Two different things altogether. The groundwork for the book, however, that derives this idea of the Armilius was written about 629, 636 of the Common Era during the fierce struggle between Persia and the Byzantine Empire to control what it was at that time the Holy Land. And this you can also look at the Byzantine Arab wars of Muslim conquest of Syria. These wars touched Byzantine Israel and stirred messianic hopes among Jews, including the author of whom the wars was to be an eschatological war leading to the appearance of the Messiah. Armelius is thought to be a cryptogram for Heraclius, and that the events described in the Sefer Zerubbabel coincides with the Jewish revolt of Heraclius. As a matter of fact, it's evidence in the work that's existent prior to the 10th century, and it's elusive. According to the Zohar, it's cognizant that the legend of Hepzibah was the apocalypse of the first names of the mother of the Davidic Messiah. Rabbi Sadia Gaon, 882 to 942, and Hai ben Sharira Gaon probably knew about the book, but never mentioned it by name. The Sefer, called Sefer Zerubbabel, is extant in a number of manuscripts and print recensions. What may be the oldest manuscript copy as part of the prayer book is reportedly about the year 840 of the Common Era. The first publication was in 1519 in Constantinople, and it's an anthology called Likim Shonim, and it was imprinted again along with the Sefer Malchel in Vilna in 1819 by a gentleman named Adolf Janelnik in his Beit HaMikdash in 1853, 1877. And you'll find it also in the Sefer of Wertheimer in his Leget Midrashim in Jerusalem in 1903. The fullest edition of the work was prepared by Israel Levy in his book Le Apocalypse. And all of this can be found obviously in Google, and you do your research. The Sefer describes the eschatological struggle between the Antichrist, Armelius, who's the leader of Rome and Christianity, and the Messiah ben Yosef, who files in the battle but proves the way for the Davidic Messiah and the ultimate triumph of righteousness. The original author is expected that the Messiah would come in the immediate future, and subsequent editors substituted later dates, pushing it off further. So in other words, we do have a false Messiah concept also in Judaism, in which is the very pinnacle of the power struggle between the Gentile world, the Christian and Islam world, against the Jewish world. Interesting enough, the Jewish world sees that this force coming against Jerusalem, coming against Israel, is part of the end time concepts. And thus it's not surprising to see that the King Messiah that will come and reign as a regular monarch. Don't take away that concept, my friends. Rambam speaks about it completely and fully. He will succeed even in this battle, even according to the Sefer Zerubbabel. Even prior to that, we saw the rising of the false Messiah in Jewish concept with Titus when he came into the temple and destroyed the temple. And the abomination that caused desolation. To my Christian friends, I want you to study that which your own Jesus talks about when you see the destruction that caused desolation that was spoken of in Daniel. That is, my friends, the concept of the Jewish anti-Messiah, which already took place through the figurehead of Hadrian. And this is what took place already. And we see it popping up over and over and over again. When the whole entire world goes against the Jewish world, when they go against the state of Israel, when they go against the monarchy, then we know that that force is in fact the very spirit of anti-Messiah, because they don't want the Messiah to show up. They don't want the process to come up. And like I mentioned earlier, some of the biggest people who basically don't want the Messiah to come up are the very religious ones, because they have everything bet on not him showing up. What do you mean? It is to the benefit of the religious community that the Messiah doesn't show up. So obviously, it is incumbent upon the religious community to make sure that the platform for which he is to arise is created. And that's what I'm pushing for. I'm pushing for it's time to prepare for the Davidic dynasty, the Davidic monarchy, and we should be in a grassroots effort, as I mentioned before, in creating the platform and the basis on which he may arise. Without that, my friends, it's all Baba Meiser. And all the talk of Mashiach now is Baba Meiser, until we actually put actions to our words by creating in Israel the environment to create the monarchy. Shalom, shalom. Have a wonderful morning. Have a wonderful week. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. And those of you wanting to go to yeshiva in Israel, we're looking for 7 Jewish male between the ages of 18 and 32. And I was speaking with Rabbi Makor. He tells me they have 7 positions available, and they'll pay for all costs to have you go out there to Israel to learn in the yeshiva, become a rabbi, become a shochet, become a sofer, for 7 positions available, and all costs are paid for, including the trip from wherever you're at here in the United States to Israel, including room and board, food, you name it. It's only 7 positions available for those in here in the United States. Those of you who are in Cuba, to my Cuban friends, there are 30 positions available for those Jews in Cuba who wish to study in Israel, become a rabbi, and come back to Cuba to learn. Same thing in Latin America. We have a lot of positions available though there for that age group. Those of you who would like to study in Israel, but you're not in that age group, there is a work program where you can subsidize the cost and thus help with your cost of going over there for 1 year intensive study and get your smicha. And it's a great way to learn, a great opportunity for those in that age. Unfortunately, I'm 58 years old, so I wouldn't qualify even to get some other smicha, but there's other alternatives. Those of you that want more information, please write to me, rabbiotero@yahoo.com. I'd be more than happy to connect you with these people to be able to help you achieve your goals. Shalom, shalom, and I wish all of you a wonderful week. Shalom. And let's start working on creating a grassroots effort to bring the Davidic monarchy back into life in Israel. Now is the time. What a wonderful moment we live in history. Shalom, shalom.